Happy Tuesday, Rodney Wilds. How are you today?
I couldn't be better. I couldn't be better. How are you?
You know what? I couldn't be better either. And I got to tell you, you look all nice, like you got some sun here recently, and you're just looking all peppy and healthy. That's really good.
Man, that's a nice way to start the show. Thank you.
I'm telling you. Have you been golfing?
We played a little bit this weekend. It was 40, mid 40s. I think I played Sunday.
Ooh,
Pretty cold, but we got it out of the way. I need some exercise during this time, so I have to do something.
yeah. And it's getting warmer. I mean, spring is like it's here. I've got listings coming up, and I always tell you, listings come up with the daffodils.
That's it. The daisies, the daffodils, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's like they called. Can we come get our house listed? Okay, it must be spring. Well, here, first things first. I want to do something, and that is I want to introduce Rodney Wilds. He is a loan officer with First Trust here in Williamson County, Tennessee. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee as well. And our goal on this show, this program, this live stream, is to just share some ideas about real estate, the economy, what's going on. And we're just a couple of guys with opinions that we like to share and have fun online. But if you have questions about any of those things, meaning real estate related for Rodney, of course, lending, and with me, housing, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email. All that information will be in the description box, easy to find, but we're easy to catch. And that's what I'm all about. That's what we're all about, is making it easy for you. So reach out to us if you have questions. If I forgot anything?
No, that's it.
Well, we're good. All right. Today's going to be an interesting, I got a couple of surprises. Wait.
Let's go.
Almost. I wonder what this could be.
Yeah. There we have it.
Wait, bing. I know this is going to work.
The other Bing.
Hang, here we go. Now we go.
There we have it.
Thank
right.
you.
Well, I put this up here as a 6-month view today because anything else is if you just look at it in the last month or so, it looks like a huge decline, and it kind of doesn't show the whole picture. But if you go back for the previous 6 months, you'll see that although the last month or so we've been taking a little bit of a hit here, it's not been terrible. It's still keeping us in decent range, but we definitely given back some of that gain we had back starting in October here, where the rates for mortgage rates got a lot better. Green is good, red is bad. It is kind of backwards on this chart, but as it goes up, that means the rates for the customers getting better, and anything red means it's declining that day. So,
okay. And I know that I always ding you with this pretty much every week. My question is, what's the rates today? Are they over 7 today?
They are. Let's see here. This is a 6.5. This coupon right here. This is a 6% coupon, meaning, and the cost of a 6% coupon is 100.38. So that means they're not making very much. They're not making very much. 0.38 is not enough on that loan. So yes, they're still under 7 right now, but probably barely.
Right, and in some places, and I know that we go through this.
I guess, yeah.
We go through this every week, and I mean, it's because, I look at mortgage rates like a consumer, like, the person sitting there watching the news, and then an ad comes on, and how they average things out. Like Mortgage Daily News, right now they're saying it's 7.11. Well, you're a lender. You look at things differently because every loan, every customer, every purchase is a case-by-case basis, and that changes the numbers on all of
Right.
them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they're probably giving you an average. It may be a conventional average or an FHA average or
Mm.
something. On
Mm-hmm.
primary residences or something like that. So yeah, it just
Yep.
depends on what you're looking at. But that's about right. I mean, that's
Yep. And I think based on and I want to really today's theme is about affordability. The whole point of today's show is about affordability, a desire to own a home because there's pent up demand there, and that resistance to buying a home as we go along. And the reason there's resistance is conversations that I'm having, not what Rodney's doing. But if I say it's 7-Eleven, but Rodney, being the pro, knows that that's not necessarily the case, that can scare people away. And so my point on this particular argument is if you're thinking about buying a house, if you're even just investigating it, call your lender, call Rodney, and find out what the truth is, meaning what's the real deal, not a general number across the nation on a website. That's
right. I mean, and plus it's that you need to look local. You need to, you need to look. The taxes in Dallas, Texas, are a lot different than say Nolensville, Tennessee, or something. So you have to look at also the locability of it too, and your local city, county taxes and things like that affect it a lot as well. So
yeah. And if I were to sum up the current market, it's a tough one. So we're just going to keep weathering the storm. We'll be all right. So now we're going to get into the topics for today. You gotta love that, man. You gotta love that. Okay, so here's what I've got on the docket, I guess you could say today. The first item that I wanted to talk about is, did Wall Street kill the American dream of home ownership? And Rodney, just please chime in as you think about things on this. Over the years, you hear about these big companies. Some of the names are Blackstone, BlackRock, Invitation. Another one is called Progress. But these companies get blamed a lot for housing prices and acceleration. Have you ever heard that before?
yes, a lot actually. Yes. Now
And
they get
so,
blamed for a lot of stuff actually. Um,
mhm.
Unaffordable housing, is that the most of the blame that they get? Unaffordable housing.
Well, they're taking a big hit on that, and even and it's difficult to blame institutional investors like these guys. Most estimates put their ownership now. This is just not a test, really, but does anybody out there know how many households are in America? How many in America? 132 million. 132 million households. I think that's right. 123 million dyslexic. 123 million. That's how many households. And so they're saying that Blackstone, BlackRock, and Invitation Homes nationwide, most estimates put their ownership at less than 5% of the family rentals and less than 1% of the single family homes. But the desirable markets like Atlanta, Dallas, Charlotte tell a different story. And we've even got one city locally that has been affected by these guys as well. In Wall Street, and by that we're just using that as nomenclature for all these companies combined. They own more than 4% of the single family homes in Atlanta for one, and that could in fact be part of the rising the reason for the rising prices. I guess you can probably imagine that, right?
Yes, I mean, when they're getting up to 4%, way over, that's a lot in a city, right? And but here's I guess the question was, does the institutional people or Wall Street, and what we're saying by that is like investment companies buying, they may come in and buy 50 houses at a time,
Mm-hmm.
or they may call five, or they may have 25 real estate agents working for them in a certain market saying, bring me everything that fits this criteria. So that's kind of the institution. It's not a single family or a person going out and buying this as their resident or their investment. But what the problem I get with this now, one, I think I would love to see some legislature like there is being asked for now. But do you remember when these guys, I don't want to say saved the market, but they came in after the crash, and they was a huge lift to the real estate market because they started buying well before the last few years. This was several years ago, before COVID, and they were buying like crazy. But they were buying when the market was down. And now that the market's turned good and we have a housing shortage, they're getting a lot of blame for, well, nobody blamed them when they saved us, right? Nobody blamed them when they did a lot of good for the real estate. But I do think that I would love to see institutional buyers be come second fiddle when it comes to single family residents somehow. I hate that they can come in and buy hundreds at a time because we don't even, we can't negotiate against them. Like a single person can't negotiate against BlackRock, right? They're going to pay, they can pay for whatever they want for the house. And then two, they're going to buy 50 at a time. And when they do that, they're just going to go to that builder and buy all of them at the same time. So we're not even going to get a chance, the public isn't going to get a chance to even see those houses. That's the only piece I don't like about it. But it's like, do you not like them in the good time? Only the bad time? So I have a little bit of issue with that.
And you're exactly right that back in 2012, 2013, those years, they put a floor in real estate that allowed the real estate industry, maybe it was earlier than that, probably earlier than that, to not collapse entirely because they had the money, they saw a deal, and who else could do that? God bless America, that worked really well. And these days, and I it bothers me a little bit. I got to be a little careful with this, but politicians are jumping on the bandwagon, they blame Wall Street for everything, and they're calling it American greed and that kind of stuff. Are there examples of that? Well, Wolf of Wall Street didn't help, but the capitalistic system is based on self-interest, and it's such an interesting thing that it's self-interest for the greater good. Adam Smith, baby.
Well, and you've seen a lot of this back off recently. When prices got really high, they stopped buying too. It's like they haven't been buying inventory crazy. So it's like, hey, they're affected by it as well. But I don't like the fact that they get to, I don't want to call it bully out, a couple 100,000 single family homes a year, but that's a lot. That's a lot. If you're talking about say 5% in certain big cities and things like that, but like you said, it also gave us a really good floor in those years where they came in and seen a value and bought up houses.
Yeah, well, and if they're committed to making money, if they're in business to make money, well, that's why they would do that. And of course, there was a bill introduced. I don't know what that, I could look it up, but there was a bill introduced last year, and this is what you're talking about, banning hedge funds from owning single family homes in the country. Well, that might make sense today, but if the market gets tough again,
yeah, you might want to change that again. But right now, it looks like a million home shortages. It's going to take more than some zoning laws changes and things like that to kind of get us caught back up there.
Yeah. And I can't tell you the number of times there was back in the day, there was, golly, I can't remember the name of that company anymore, but there was an agent in our office. This is 10 years ago. And it was a hedge fund when Nashville was pretty hot back in 2014, 15. I mean, it was hot for buyers because it was still an really affordable market by comparison. And there was this hedge fund. What was it? Homes.com? I can't remember the name of it. I'll look it up. And one of the agents signed up with these guys, and all they wanted was a series. If you see a house that fits this criteria, it's 2,200 square feet, it's under $350,000, 2 bathrooms, and brick, we'll buy it. And everybody was like, I don't know. That guy ended up selling 100 houses that way to a hedge fund.
I called it the Go Rush. I knew a couple of them that was doing. I just called them the Go Rush because they were just 10 times busier than everybody else. And
Steve Schmittou. Steve Schmittou. He was the most timid person, and I mean this in a good way. His personality, he was just so kind and soft spoken, and he's the guy that's blowing the doors off things, you know. And he didn't have to fight with anybody. If somebody said no, next. So Wall Street's share of the multifamily rental market's much higher and traces back further. That's because with multifamilies, you can increase your profit, I would expect, in the aftermath of the great financial crisis. That's when they got into the single family space. Now, let's see if I got this here. Yes. The truth about housing has gotten so affordable is much more nuanced. It goes back more than a century. If you didn't know, how did they do this? 200,000 homes. Okay. I'm going to show you something. It was talking about, where'd that go, Rodney? About the areas that they went into, desirable markets like Atlanta, Dallas, Charlotte, those guys.
Right under Wall Street doubles down, location matters.
Yes. All right. So here's what happened. And this was local. And this is a story that I found a while back. This is pretty cool. Hang on. Bing. In our own little town here, meaning Nashville, this is the article, how a $1 billion housing bet upended a Tennessee neighborhood. And there was a neighborhood in Laverne, Tennessee, which is very middle class. I'll say that. It was middle class. And there's a subdivision called Lake Forest out in Laverne. And if I'm not mistaken, Lake Forest, probably still the case, was the largest subdivision in the country, if you can imagine that. The largest
subdivision line.
Is that is that correct?
And it was largest built by an individual builder, not necessarily those huge tract home builders. You know, the M9, Scribnin.
Yeah. But for a while, but anyway, that's what was its big claim to fame. And if you drive through there, there's real similarities as to what's going on. Well, at any rate, this article's a little bit older, but it shows you what had happened in one particular street, in one particular neighborhood. In the past 6 years, 19 of the 32 homes on one street were purchased by Progress Residential. I'm not making any judgments, but it's in print. The problem and what had happened and the reason for the story was simply this, that when, there we go, that for the renters, it became impossible. If you had things to get repaired, if you had anything that went wrong, there was nobody to fix it. It was such a job that they didn't have any kind of a maintenance crew. And that's the big problem with these big companies trying to manage thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these renters, apparently, because they complain about it. And so, and that's what happened in Laverne is they turned a neighborhood, a large portion of it, into a rental market that they all owned. And there was no, I'll finish with this. Sometimes when you have a homeowner or as a regular person that owns a rental, if you get in difficulties, you can talk to the landlord and you can kind of work things out. If you read this article, and it is like a novel, the point there was if you were just a few days late on your rent, they're kicking you out. I mean, you were out.
Yeah.
And that's what they're talking about up in that thing. So anyway, so I wanted to bring to one more point. We're talking about unaffordability, and in order for that to happen, at this particular point, we don't have enough houses. We're millions of houses short. Back in 1920, and I've wondered this all my life until I read this, Herbert Hoover, as the Secretary of Commerce before his presidency, created a model law for zoning that was implemented across individual states and localities. I mean, have you ever wondered, and I'm asking and I'll shut up, have you ever wondered how cities, who designs those and who comes up with those ideas?
I mean, I have a little bit, but I know enough about small towns. It's about the small town government keeping, regulations and things that are fitting to their community, And if it happens to be a real affluent neighborhood, you get things like you must have a half acre, you must have this, you must have that to protect or whatever what they like. So yeah, but not the big cities. I've always wondered about big cities, like Nashville doesn't have a very good transportation system for, like we don't have a railway, a good bus route or anything like that. So I've wondered how all these, how other cities have adopted that and got all that done. But
yeah,
I know how the local stuff works, because I see I see boards and HOA boards and things like that. I'm like, yeah, of course. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but right. It's definitely.
The thing that always, I never, until I got in real estate and started thinking more deeply about it, here's the thing that I'm kind of impressed with. But it turned around, it kind of bit them in the butt. If you go from city to city to city, they tend to work, meaning you go to downtown, that's where the commerce is. You go a little bit further out, turns into strip malls, and then you've got a blend of regular single houses, you got townhomes, and then there's this lovely blend, and it works. And you go from any city in the nation is going to have some version of that, with you're going to have the city board that can change things, right? Like pass or not with mass transportation. Nashville, good example. But the way that happened initially was Herbert Hoover had this model law for zoning that was implemented across individual states and localities. The reason I bring that up is that the housing shortage developed from that. Now, they didn't know.
Right.
It just looked like like, have you ever been to Cedar City, Iowa? And I asked that, really, have you?
No. Yeah.
That's the most beautiful town I've ever been to. I mean, I just drove through it and went, damn, this is a nice place, It's just a beautiful place. But the reason I mention all of this is the fundamental infrastructure for the model. They call it the model law. I could read the whole thing, but model law for zoning doesn't do well when you start running out of space. Now, we're not really out of space, but Philip Thirst, how you doing, man? We need, I'm going to pull this up. Good to see your name pop up. We need zoning in Nashville to permit more accessory dwelling units on single family properties. As an example, LA is clamoring for these additional units. Let me tell you a story. My cousin is going through exactly that. They've got an ADU in their backyard, and they were given permission to turn it into a house. And it's like 400 square feet. It's a mother-in-law kind of a thing. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, that means you've really got to like your mother-in-law. 400 square feet.
I'm telling you, but that's what, and he was laughing, because he's in Santa Barbara. And so you would think that's, here's what I'm trying to get to. We're taking these cities and going to make them more dense, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing, and it's going to sound like a shot, but Calcutta comes to mind. Have you ever seen that? I mean, they've got 4,000 people per square foot in that India town, and it's a fine city, I suppose, but it's dense, is what I'm getting at. That's my point. In order to have affordability, we need more houses to buy. We're 6 million short. That's been going on for 10 years. Well, here's a little article for you. I'm going to pull this up. Where to go? Bing, bing, here we go. Beverly Hills, and I know you can't read this, Ange. I won't be on here for just a second. Beverly Hills is in crisis as judge mandates affordable housing. People are furious. And in fact, what they're talking about in that article is doing more of exactly what Philip is talking about in Beverly Hills. Isn't that the richest zip code in the country?
Yeah, I think when they had that golf tournament out there at Los Angeles Country Club, they were talking about it was 25 million an acre. So, and that just, if somebody wants to build affordable housing on 25 million an acre, they just need they need their head checked. 25 million for the lot. Go ahead. It makes it unaffordable. Like let the rich have their $25 million an acre. I mean, what do you do with that? Like stay out of Beverly Hills is what you do.
Yeah. And so, here's the other article, and I'm bringing this all up, and we're going to be focusing on more specific with people here in a second. But the hottest trend in the U.S. is changing the zoning rules, precisely what Philip's talking about. And this is new information, February 17th. This is just a few days ago. And what they're talking about is more density. Just how do you do that? And my question is, how do you handle more density with sewage? And I mean, what's your opinion on how do you account for that?
Well, there's actually, this has been going on in our area too. Well, actually, you just pulled that up. That was that NPR article is actually about Nashville, isn't it? Maybe not. But if it's not that NPR article is different. But Nashville had some zoning.
Minneapolis.
Yeah. So Nashville had this same exact zoning. Two guys threw a bunch of bills to try to get passed about, making building up to a duplex or a triplex on a single family lot, and trying to loosen up restrictions on small apartment complexes, 20, 30 units, whatever. But the none of that is addressing the infrastructure. All this is saying is like loosen up on all of this and don't allow for parking. Because a big part of that article was how you're loosening up these zones is you're taking a single family lot, and all of a sudden you're putting 2 or 3 families on, or possibly 4. Now, but you haven't increased. There's no sewage. There's no, who knows? There's impact for schools and things like that. So I get the zoning stuff, and I'm all for it, except in my neighborhood, right? Because I don't want anybody, so I like what I like, and it's not the dense urban area. So yeah, I mean, I don't want my neighborhood or my county coming back and saying, oh yeah, you can build a duplex and a triplex on any lot you want. So.
And that's the argument for the Beverly Hills article, because if you can imagine, you've made it to the pinnacle, you're living in Beverly Hills, you buy whatever kind of land that you can afford out there, and next door they put in multifamily units.
$25 million an acre keeps the riffraff out. I mean, it keeps everybody out. I mean, you're not going to have a lot of problems at 25. You're going to have a different, like people going to be running out of martinis and Grey Poupon. I don't know what they do out there. But, regular folks, I mean, but that's what I mean, though, is like a neighborhood. Like if you're, in my opinion, if you're rich and you can afford 25 million, that's where you fit in at, right? You go live in that neighborhood.
You've
If
earned
you're,
it.
yeah, if you're whatever, you make $15 an hour or whatever, you fit in at that level. So I don't get why Beverly Hills would need affordable housing. I get where all major cities do, but it's crazy thinking like Beverly Hills needs affordable housing. It doesn't. That's why it's Beverly Hills. I don't want to go. I don't want to fly all the way down there and want to take a trip on Rodeo Drive to see all that stuff, and then see an apartment complex for affordable housing.
And I'm not laughing because it's funny.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's an incongruency that I would go, what the,
yeah.
what's
I
that?
mean,
How did
but
that happen?
that's the richest city in America. So everybody, but the zoning laws if you ease them up, you're going to cause other issues. I will say that, but you know,
And long term, I think a really good study would be, and we can actually drive up there and see it. Is that I've been they're turning more motels here for house. I've experienced that in my own hometown, where they took a motel where I used to stay when I go visit, and they said it's not for rent anymore. And they didn't tell me directly what it was, but I went downtown and they said, "Oh yeah, it's homeless. That's where the homeless go." I was like, "Huh." Anyway, but we're talking about this density thing, and we could drive for a test study. We could drive over to East Nashville as just one example of the tall skinnies. In Nashville, we're very famous for the tall skinnies. And if you go over to East Nashville, back in the day, that used to be in Nashville's heyday. East Nashville was where it was happening because there was the train tracks and people would get off the train having come to Nashville, and Madison was a big deal. And the lots over there for fairly good size. They're like 0.25 and up. It's 0.3 and up. Not huge, not like Brentwood 1 acre, but they're pretty good size. And so for the past 10 years, they've been doing these tall skinnies. And I can't tell you the number of times that I would take buyers over there because look at the price, look at that's comparatively cheap relative to the other new homes in the area on a full lot. And time after time, we would go to these properties and it would be a single lot. And I think the minimum requirement's 70 feet or something. I'm not sure on that. I guess it's different everywhere. But within that lot, there was 4 tall skinnies. And they navigated, the driveway would go straight up to the front ones and then a little to the side, straight to the back. Beautiful houses.
Yeah.
450, and this is back 10 years, 450, 500, easy. Beautiful houses. But you'd literally be, if you're on your porch, you're looking in somebody else's back window,
Yeah. And an attached wall, a lot of them were attached,
A lot.
I mean, so you'd have, you'd have 2 of them in an HOA association. You'd have 2 people with an HOA association.
And in the place that I was talking about, it would have 4, and you'd all have to you'd all have to agree on how many cars in the parking lot, I guess is what it boiled down to.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's like I said, there's always some zoning stuff that needs to be done, but it's also it's changing the forever landscape when you really dense out these areas, and it changes it just makes it really where, like, for me, I would never want to live it. I've always been from the South. I've always had a yard, and I don't like I wouldn't want to live in a condo building downtown where I walk everywhere. But that's what a lot of these people like. Like that article, the NPR article, the lady, I don't even think she had a scooter or something. She didn't own a car. So
correct. And for somebody like that, meaning that's her lifestyle, that's what she wants, cool. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you've got a bodega or whatever, you know, someplace that you can go to the store to, that's good. I am car based. I am automobile based.
Yeah.
I don't do anything without a car.
I mean, if I had a perfect lifestyle, I wouldn't. But maybe I'd need a helicopter then. You know, I mean, where do you? I mean,
You go to your Beverly Hills, you know,
yeah, I'd go down there and
summer
work on
home.
I'd go work on me apartment complex in Beverly Hills.
Infrastructure must be already expanded in Nashville. Look at all the multifamily buildings going up in this town. We're advocating for the small mom and pops to add some units as well. Absolutely. And I think your argument, if I'm not mistaken, goes back to the same article, is getting those big dogs out of that, you know, let them have less of an effect, have more mom and pops in there. That's the whole point.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wish they'd just put a moratorium on, you know, while we've got this huge shortage on those people buying that. But it's also capital, you know, it's like, it's also capitalism. It's not always what's best for whatever, you know, a certain segment of the population. But yeah, I mean, our zoning laws, obviously, I think in these areas have to change. But it's like, for me, I like the small town. I like the square in Franklin. You know, so I like the small town. And when you start talking about densing these things out, you know, it's you're changing the whole landscape. And that's all I'm saying is, I want the old. I like where I live and how it's like.
Yeah.
But it ain't the way I like it is creating a housing shortage.
I just think that, and this is just me, and I'm pretty good at being able to see around corners down the road. When it comes to the density thing, we'll use the East Nashville thing again. Imagine if every single lot had 4 buildings on it, or 2 or 3 down the street. That would be, it'd be almost unimaginable.
It would turn it into, I mean, we wouldn't know what it's like because we still have a city with grass and trees and parks. You know, that's not what you're describing there, right? I mean, it'd be a lot different.
It'd be a lot different, and based on what we're talking about, if they would change those rules like they're talking about in these articles with, I don't know about Beverly Hills, but the hot trend, the NPR article, how do you turn back from that? You know, it's all of us here. It's a catastrophe, in my opinion, trying to fix a problem that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, let's look at something else if we move on off of this topic, if we can. This isn't exciting news, but it's the truth. You know, I mean, we're all about telling the truth. The U.S. housing market experiences a downturn a little bit. And kind of go through a couple.
This is the most uplifting article from you read the headline, but wait when we go through it, how many positive things there is in this article.
Absolutely.
It really is good.
I'm glad you caught that. So January, because when I look up statistics, everything cuts off at December. It's just too early to, even median home prices are tough to extract because it's just middle of February, you know. So let's go through a couple of these, Rodney. January 24, the housing market in the U.S. experienced a slight downturn with new listings with a 1.2 decrease compared with the previous month on a seasonally adjusted basis, was reported by Redfin. This decline, the first since June, contrasts with a 2.7% decrease compared with the same period last year, a notable slowdown from December's 4.2 gain. Normal stuff. It's seasonal. Yeah. Go ahead.
But it's an increase. Mm-hmm. It's an increase from December's 4.2. We went down to 2.7 increase. So we still went up, but they're calling it a downturn, right?
A slowdown from 4.2 to 2.7, right?
Right. The slowed down.
Right. And that's like disinflation. It's the same kind of a weird term. Yeah. Active listings representing the total number of homes available for sale also saw a dip That's going to go up by 2 just from moi for the previous month. The first decline in 6 months and a 4.4% decrease year over year. Okay. But it's seasonal.
I would expect that. Yeah. I mean, a January listing. I mean, that's January. Yes.
Yes. Pending home sales, while still showing growth, experienced a notable deceleration in January. Normal. There's a rise of 1.1 from the previous month on a seasonally adjusted. Good. In comparison to December's 5.1, however, reflects an 8.8% increase from the same period last year. Good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another good report.
Okay. The report further noted that stagnant mortgage rates, and we're going to play into that every week, is that mortgage rates in this 7-Eleven for the general population, or whatever that is, that's going to make people stop and think for a minute. And that's, and my argument is going to be, I'm going to say this every week, the market will go as our attitudes are determined. Our attitudes determine the market, period, And that's why this should be, if you're thinking about buying a house, none of this is bad. It just can seem that way, the way the headlines come across. Of course, here's some old news. Stagnant, yes. Homeowners benefiting from lower rates are reluctant to sell. There's old news for you.
Well, I think there's a good point in this one right here that buyers and sellers came off the sidelines in December. Okay.
Yep.
When the Fed signals it would lower the interest rates 3 times in the next year. But now some are getting cold feet because the Fed indicate rate cuts may come later than expected. Okay. Now, when it went from March to April, I'm like, come on. I mean, what was they expecting? So I like inflation, geopolitical conflicts are also scaring some buyers. April at the absolute earliest is when they think things could take off. So that's surprising that the Fed pulling back just a little bit, like just announcing it might be April instead of March, because everybody was speculating something else. Man, they just hung on to that like a hair in a biscuit or something right here. And I'm like, they're sitting there, I'm like, yeah.
Excuse me.
I mean, I don't get it. I mean, but I totally see that happening in the market. And I thought the December was going to build a little bit momentum, but it's been a little bit slower, as you can see.
Yeah. And your point is well taken. And we talked about this, and I'm not shy to say we'll talk about this every week. We're going to pound this home. The Fed does not directly affect mortgage rates, but they do have an impact on what's going to happen. The stories that are told by these presidents, on these different districts, and how that board of 12 all comes together, the FOMC, I think it's called. When they hint at something, everybody is, he hinted, I think we're going to start cutting rates. I don't think he said anything, probably less than that. And all of a sudden, there's predictions. 2 days later, they're going to cut 7 times. What? Who said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh, don't do that, guy. Philip. Oh, come on. My computer's cracking. There it goes. Dink. I must be. Yeah. But that's what that's a bit expansive, but that's what most people are waiting on. And if you're not an economist, like I'm not, we're waiting on somebody else to tell us what the Fed says, what Jerry says, if it's good news or not. If you're not an economist, can't listen to him and sometimes interpret for yourselves what it means. We're waiting for the bad news YouTube guy to scream, "It's the sky is falling," But
there's a lot of other factors too. Inflation, job, all that stuff plays a role as well. But Goodness
Yep.
gracious, if we can find ourselves in getting another war for some reason, that always
Oh, God.
messes things up.
So, bottom line on this kind of stuff is the key highlights for January 2024 is the median sale price is 402. That's a 5-point increase. And I'm going to tell you that is a national number that has Brentwood is different. Nashville is different. Every place is different. That's a national number. So if you're thinking about buying and you don't have $402,000 or you think that's scary, check with your professionals locally before you take that as a concern. Pending sales rose 1.1% month over month. That's good news, meaning pending sales is a leading indicator. It tells us we're going to have more closings. Not 100% will close, but most of them will. New listings, 1.2% decrease month over month, a 2.7% increase year over year. Again, yours truly is going to be bringing some stuff to the market. Active listings, a 0.3 decrease month over month, 4.4 decrease year over year. So that means our inventory is still sucky.
Yeah, that's an accurate description. Yeah.
And so we'll finish up today with this. Don't let the latest home price headlines confuse you, because you might be confused after what we just went on. Based on what you're hearing in the news about home prices, you may be worried they're falling, but here's the thing. The headlines aren't giving you the full picture. So I'm going to show you something.
Yeah, and look at this. This article is written like you're concerned that the property values are falling.
Correct.
Most people are concerned that the property values are rising.
Yeah, when I read that, I was wondering who their audience was, to be honest.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good. I like how we'll cover it because it's totally different perspective. It's like, oh, you think prices are falling? No, they're not. Don't worry.
So 49, because here's what they did is that's the 49-year average, all in. That's the average over since 1973 or something like that. Yeah, 1973, Case Shiller. That's what that looks like. That's what normal is for 49 years. But here's what it is. 49-year versus 2023. Prices are down. Interesting.
Yeah, they were. Look, they called up around July and August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then March, April, May, it was definitely hot, but things leveled out. And I guess my whole point is the reason it's kind of a sketchy article when you get down to it, really. That over the long term, things tend to even out. Did you ever see that Seinfeld article? that Seinfeld episode,
yeah.
When he said, whenever something bad happens, I don't worry because things always work it out for me. They always even out for me. If we look at the real estate market, that's what I think that this article is trying to tell us. Would you agree, or do you see that different?
I see it a lot like everything else, just like a small minor movement, 1% or 2%, and then maybe at the end of the year, a 3 or 4 or 5% gain. That's exactly what I see. I don't see right now, I don't think we're going to experience. Just depends on, in my opinion, depends on what the rates do. If the rates bottom out really fast, not bottom out, but get better really fast, we could have we could make our inventory problem worse and push that percentage up a little bit. If they come down smoother and the market kind of does average or whatever, then I see a very minimal increase. But yes, I mean, our property values are extremely stable.
Extremely. They're very stable. And I guess that the headline, actually, I like the headline, though. Don't let the latest home price headlines confuse you. Because when it comes time for you to buy a house, it's a case-by-case basis. You talk to the people that's going to lend you money. You talk to people that's going to help you buy a house and help you get a good deal. you can leave confusion in the back because it is what it is in your situation, you know. That's what I'm trying to say. I didn't wrap that up very good.
I think it confused most of us, but that's okay.
What I'm saying is when it's time for you to buy a house, it'll make more sense. That's what I'm getting at. Don't let the
Yeah.
headlines drag you around and confuse you. That's all.
No, because we got two articles saying the same thing, and both of them have different headlines. Like if you go to that, did the Wall Street kill the American dream? And then this one is, what is it? The don't let the latest home prices headlines confuse you. I mean, so yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say about that is, call your local professional or call us and get some advice on that stuff, because it's easy to get confused.
And it is easy to get confused. You know, it's all partially it's because of our emotions get in there. You know, that's really what it is. So to answer your question, Philip, 100%. Spring is going to be where it's the best time to sell. Prices may go up a little bit. Here's the two sides of that coin. You can expect prices to go up as the year goes on, but that's going to be a slow roll. We're just looking at the charts. It's going to be a slow roll on an increase, but it will increase. However, in the spring, in order to get a better price, you're going to have more competition. Because there's just new houses, new buyers, fresh blood, everybody's ready to go, plus school. So and that chart is plain as the nose on your face, not yours, but mine. I mean, April, May, June, geez, Louise, that's the time. It's very clear on that. So yes, the answer is without question. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. Go away. Why did that happen? Should we, I've had fun. Should we handle the next one, why so many people fall in love, or let's save that for next week?
Oh, let's go ahead and jump into it.
We
can do it fast.
We can do it fast. For anybody that's on the fence and looking at buying a house this year, and we've talked about the reason that we do this is these are uncertain times relative to the Fed and all that kind of stuff. You never know what's going to happen with rates. We've talked about prices. But I want to help you be certain of the end result of you buying a house. And so this article is about why so many people fall in love with home ownership. Because at the end of the day, and this is what Rodney says too, he thinks of home purchases, and check me if I'm wrong, it's a long-term deal. It's a long-term deal when you're buying a house, right? That's what you're saying. Financially, all of it.
Right. Anytime that, we're talking on this show, I am talking to the single family homeowner, the, small investor, nothing that really any kind of advice I give is for a primary residence 99% of the time. So,
yep. And in this particular case, if you're listening in and you're currently renting, because that's what this article, it's anybody that's bought a house knows this already. But if you've rented for your whole life or a big chunk of it, the first thing that people love, this is what I love when I moved into my place, was I could paint, I could put up pictures, tear down walls. You can customize to your heart's content in your own house. That's the first thing.
Yeah, matching, your decorations and stuff to your personalities. That's definitely a big part of owning a home.
It's a big thing, and if you've rented, if you do work on it, they end up keeping your deposit. Maybe if it's not done to their high standards. So that's the first thing you'll love about moving into your own place, customizing your own house, your own yard, not just the inside, but the garage and the front yard and the backyard. I love that stuff. Second, and what do you see there as the second one there, Rodney?
Well, it just gives you, that you're going to have you're going to give you control over your lifestyle, greater stability. especially if you have kids. You won't be able to, keep your kids in the same school. You're not going to be worried about the landlord sells a house or goes up in rent. It's just going to provide you with a lot more stability than you would have, obviously, if you're leasing, right? Because they can come back, raise your rent, kick you out, do all that stuff. When that's not good for your family situation. You got kids in school and stuff like that. So,
And I know when I was renting, and it was a long time ago, but every year I could depend on a letter coming at some point would say, "Hey, Mr. Elliott, your rent's going to go up by $50, $100, whatever it was." That happened every year. You own a house, other than maybe property taxes or insurance, something like that, it's going to be stable. How nice is that?
yeah, it goes up a little bit, but it is very stable is a very good word compared to what it does with rent.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Because you can go with renters. You could have a landlord that gets mad at you, and you never know how stuff goes. But we're talking about why you're happy moving in. So again, customized to your heart's content, stability for you and your kids, the schools, all the rest of it. The next one is the feeling of belonging. When I help especially first-time home buyers, I make a big deal about this because after we've done the closing, we've done the final walkthrough, through contract inspections that we're at, we're doing the final walkthrough. And then we go to the closing table for first-time home buyers, and I give them that key, after they've signed their documentation, they're getting ready to go. I tell them, look, when you get to the house, just trust me, pull into the driveway and just stop for a minute and think about what's going to happen, and then walk inside the door and just, man, you're home, God.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, I remember the first time I felt a sense of belonging. It truly is. It truly is like that. It's kind of weird, but it truly is.
When you get your house set up the way you like it, your living room, your way you like it, the kitchen and the bedroom set, you wake up in the morning and it's just like, it's worth it. That's all I could tell you.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be such a popular thing buying houses if this wasn't emotional for people. So the last one, Rodney?
I think this is a good one. It's the emotional high of achieving your dream. Honestly, it's said very well here. Becoming a homeowner is a journey now. It's doing a little bit of prep, making sure your credit and things are good before and saving up some money, the paperwork and things like that. It is a journey to the process. But if you're doing it, it's when you can walk up to the door, put your key in, you'll feel a huge sense of accomplishment. It'll be your house, a sense of belonging. But it will, it will be an emotional high for you after you achieve your dream of home ownership. It's a great experience.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's like anything, if something's hard, when you achieve it, it's rewarding. Climbing a mountain is hard. Getting to the top, that's rewarding. Buying a house, it's a journey. You've got to take some risk, find out where you are financially, find out where you and your spouse are and how you want to live. That's a big deal. Having a meeting of the minds, going through all of that and ending up with a key where you can build a life is awesome. That's right, an awesome dream.
It really is.
Everybody deserves that. They need to feel that one time. And we're here to help you make that happen. What a great way to end today. This is really good. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world today. But when you own your own home, I can't say it any better than this, is when you say, I'm going home, that means something different when you own your own place. It's like, I'm going home. So,
I agree 100%. It's definitely special. And what's so great about this article, and it's normally not my forte, but every single one of these articles are about experiences, things that can enhance your life, but not one of them talked about the monetary benefit because it's the fastest way for people to build wealth in the U.S., like for everybody. So none of that was monetary. All that was like your belonging, how you feel, things like that versus, it's going to save you tax money. So I thought that was a good article to touch on because I'm a numbers guy. So that's all I ever talk about is numbers, So I thought that was pretty cool how it talked about, the emotional side of this piece versus just all financial.
And I think that's why they call it the American dream. And that's part of the American dream. And for one, I'm all in. So it's a privilege to be. It's a privilege to be a realtor and see this happen because I've seen this happen a lot, and I'm not sick of that. That's a good thing. Yeah. So I am. Well, I think we're about out of time. Well, you got any final thoughts there, Rodney?
No, thanks for people tuning in live, and the ones who watch later, just give us a call. You got questions, we'll be glad to help.
Angie, it's so good to see your name. I'm glad to see you. Philip, tell Wendy that we said hi. So good to see your names in there. Thanks for participating today. You guys are the best. That's it for Rodney and I this week. We'll be back next week with another scintillating topic, I'm quite sure. See y'all.